Welcome to the Institute of Self-Worth, a curriculum for life designed to teach principles of self-worth. Let's join Pastor Vic Porter as he shares on your destiny in 2 words.
I remember several years ago, I was building a new sanctuary in Arkansas. And we didn't really have any money, but we'd had this bond issue. And we had tentatively been approved for, I think it was like $150,000. Well, I had the plans all drawn up and everything, and we were getting ready to promote this bond issue and raise $150,000 for our new sanctuary. I know that's not a whole bunch compared to some of you and different places that you've been, but for us that was where we were at. And we had we were getting ready to have the kickoff for this bond issue when the bonding company, the representative, came to us and they said they've denied that much money because there was something that we hadn't counted on that had crept in there, and they said the most you can get is $111,000. And this guy sat there in my office and told me, he said, I guess you'll just need to scrap the plan. And I said, no. I said, we're not going to do that. I will adjust the plan to fit the money that's available. And he said, you mean you're going to adjust this plan and bring it underneath the guidelines of $111,000? I said, we'll do that. And he told me, he says, I don't think you can do that. And I said, we'll do it. You know why? Because I knew that the life that was inside of me and the voice that was inside of me was God's voice saying, I want you to build a building. Matter of fact, let me go back and tell you the actual beginning of this. We had a lady in our church that was very wealthy. She lived in another state, but she was worth $10 or $12 million. And she loved our church, and she would send in some money every month. Although she lived in another state, she was an elderly woman, but she'd send money in every month. And she told me one day, she said, after her husband had died, she said, Vic, she said, when my husband's estate is settled, she says, I'm going to write the church a very large check. She says, I know you're wanting to build, so she said, get your plans ready. Well, she said, his estate should be settled in about 7 months. And that 7-month period would have been June the 11th. She died May the 28th. Just a few days before her husband's estate was settled. I had the plans of this new building all drawn up. And when she died, I took those plans, put them on the shelf, and grumbled and complained to God for 2 months. I even canceled some meetings that I'd had with some ministers, a couple of meetings. And I told him, I remember telling one of them, I said, well, you know, I've kind of got into a money-tight situation. I just don't have the money right now to do that. And you know, when she died, the checks didn't keep coming. They didn't come in. And this check that she was going to write, I know was going to be at least $500,000. It would have been more than enough to do what we needed to do. But she died within 15 days of when we were to get that check. Her children wasn't going to turn loose of any of that money. So I kind of complained to God, why did this happen? Put the plans to the building program up on the shelf and was complaining about 2 or 3 months later, and I said, complaining to the Lord about this, and he said, so why did you put the plans of the new building up on the shelf? And I said, well, in case you haven't noticed, so-and-so died. He said, oh yeah, he said, I know. And I said, well, she had the money to do this. And now that she's gone, she said, I told him, I said, I don't have any money. And he said, well, Vic, he said, I've got more money than she does. And I said, oh. I said, so what do you want me to do? And he said, pull the plans out, adjust them to whatever you need to, and build the building. You have to build the building. I said, okay. So I took the plans down, readjusted them, found this bonding company. We raised the money and built the building. And we built the building under the $111,000 that we had. So God really took that was on the inside of us and He brought it to the outside, and it ended up being one of the prettiest buildings in that whole town. And we built that. That was been back in 1989, but we built that for under $24 a square foot. Turnkey, inside and out. You couldn't do that today unless God intervened, and I believe that He can do those things. But my point is that the enemy, through two things. Number one, the lady died, the money quit coming in. And number two, the bonding company told me to scrap the deal, scrap the dream, because you don't have enough money. If I would have done that, that church would have still been sitting in the little small building that it's part of their complex today. All because external situations wanted to suppress the plan of God. Now listen to me carefully. There may be areas in your life where God has placed dreams and a vision inside of you, an imagination, a picture. And because of external situations, you've aborted the dream, you've aborted the plan of God in your life. And every time that a dream of God gets aborted, people's lives are affected in the negative realm. The reason that God gives dreams, the reason that God gives visions to people is to win the lost. And every time that they're aborted, people aren't won. So these are very, very important things. Now, in order to go forward, we must be able to see beyond the external. If this doesn't happen, we end up saying things like, it was too tough, something just wasn't working right, or we'll end up blaming someone else or something for the abortion of that dream. Listen, when things don't work right, and there's lots of things that don't work right, what's inside of you? Are you going to just scrap the whole deal? Are you going to just say, well, too tough? How will you handle other pressures if you can't handle this one? Now in Hebrews chapter 11, let's go there. We talked about this recently in the Power of Imaginations. But Hebrews chapter 11 says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith or trust is the substance of the things that you hoped for. Now pay attention here. Hope is a mental picture of where you want to go. Verse number 39 of Hebrews chapter 10. But we are not of them who draw back unto our own destruction. Now I'm going to say this in so many different ways that you're going to get it. We are not of them that draw back because of the picture that we see that the devil has thrown our way. We are not of them that draw back because of the circumstances that we face out here. We're not of them that draw back because out here people say we can't do it. They laughed at Noah all the time he was building the ark. And they said, why are you building the ark? Because for protection from a flood. It had never rained before. It took 120 years to finish the ark. He took 120 years of abuse from family and friends and the whole community, mocking him. And yet, all along, he was building something from the inside of him and bringing it to the outside of him. Had Noah said it's too tough, they're saying too many bad things, the human race would have gone awry on a long, hard road. But Noah pulled that that's on the inside of him to the outside, and it worked. Now watch this. But we are of them that believe to the saving of the mind, will, and emotions, and thoughts and feelings. You can't believe for something that you have no knowledge of. Knowledge comes before faith. When you renew your mind, or the salvation of your soul, or the saving of your soul is the same as renewing your mind to the Word, now you can turn your hope into substance. But it's through the renewing of your mind first to the truth of the Word. If you don't renew your mind to the truth of the Word, your hope will die. The plan of God will cease. And by that I simply mean this, is that literally what will take place is that through the circumstances of life, the tests and the trials of life, you will draw back, and that you want to have happen from the inside out will be suppressed because of what the devil has thrown up on the outside. Greater is he that's on the inside of you than the person that's on the outside. Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is. Although we move in a different chapter to the thought continues from chapter 10, verse number 39. When we believe to the saving of our soul, rather than drawing back in our soul, we can now operate in faith. If you don't believe to the saving of your soul, there will never be any faith. Knowledge precedes faith. Knowledge supplies hope, which gives a picture of our future. Hope is the picture of your future. And the only way that you're going to get to where you want to go in hope is that you have to continue to supply your faith with the Word, your heart with the Word, so that you can obtain the goal that's been set on the inside of you. Now we're talking about your destiny in two words. Your destiny. Where are you going to end up? Listen to me carefully before we get ready to close here. You may be sitting there thinking, yes, but Pastor Vic, someone else created many, many problems for me. That's why my destiny has been aborted, what I really wanted to do. There may be some things that have happened, but I'm here to tell you, why let what somebody else does control your life? If it's really there, it'll really happen. Whenever a young person comes to me and they say, I really want to be in the ministry, I do this on purpose. I try to talk them out of it. If I can talk them out of it, they don't need to go there. If I can't talk them out of it, I encourage them to go do what God has called them to do. You have to have the right motive and attitude. I had a young man in my church years ago, and he had started a business. And he made this statement to me. He said, the reason I started this business is because I'm going to put my competitor out of work. He said, that's the only reason I started this business. And I told him, I said, then you need to get out of the business because that won't work. your motive is wrong, your attitude is wrong. And he didn't like that, and he continued to go in the same direction. Only within 9 months, they had to close the business and file bankruptcy. Why? Because the motive was wrong. Was it a God deal? No, it wasn't. It was his deal. If God places a desire in your heart, a dream in your soul, develop it. God wants it to be brought from the inside to the outside. The devil doesn't. There are people that don't. There are family and friends that don't. Now, let me encourage you this in this statement. You may tell some of the things that God has called you to do to people that don't agree with you. And they will try to talk you out of it. They will be like Job's friends. Don't hang around them. Don't tell them anymore. Don't cast your pearls before swine. They'll trample on them. Go where you are celebrated. If you're not celebrated there, don't go there.
Thank you for joining Pastor Vic Porter today. For more information on the Institute of Self-Worth, please visit our website at www.instituteofselfworth.com. May God's richest blessings be yours.